Mississippi. Joining us now, Mr. Charlie Germeinhardt. He is the 65th Division Reunion Coordinator. We teased that a minute ago about the 65th Infantry Division, which was trained here in advance of being shipped off to the south of France in World War II. A really unique story about that. But a reunion is planned here on the base, I believe, right? Mr. Germeinhardt, thanks so much
Thank you.
For joining us. And all right, so you're the coordinator of the reunion. Tell us what's planned and what that's going to look like.
Well, thank you for having us, and we appreciate all the hospitality that's been extended to us. As I was mentioning a moment ago, this is the 67th reunion for the association. First reunion was in 1951. What we have planned, and a big shout out to the city of Hattiesburg and VFW Post and everything. Veterans Day, we're going to be participating in the Veterans Day parade in downtown Hattiesburg at 10 o'clock. The 6 veterans, and these are all World War II gentlemen, will be the grand marshals of the parade.
Oh, wow.
And so they'll be leading the parade, and they're actually going to be riding in vintage military vehicles. We have a couple chapters of the Military Vehicles Association, Preservation Association, providing vehicles for them to ride in the parade. The color guard will include the ceremony colors of the 65th, and we have a sister division, the 71st, that paralleled the 65th through Germany, and they've joined us with our reunions the last few years to because their association is begin to fade away a little bit, and so them having marched across Germany almost side by side at a period of time, we've kind of joined forces with them, and we're their hosts. They're our guests at our reunion. They're going to be we have one of their veterans going to be joining us. So yes, they're going to be leading the parade as the Grand Marshal, and the color guard will have the ceremonial colors. Following that, there'll be the at 11 o'clock, the traditional Hattiesburg Veterans Day ceremonies at the Veterans Memorial Park. And then we're actually being hosted, providing lunch to all 125 of our attendees.
Wow.
We're going to have lunch at the Jackie Dole Community Center. And then we'll come back here begin some tours on Thursday.
Okay.
Friday, we're going to have continue to have some tours. Friday afternoon here, a documentarian by the name of Karen Farba will be showing us some footage from a documentary that he is in the process of producing about the 65th and their march through France, Germany, and Austria. He's been over there 2 or 3 times filming. The documentary is not finished yet because of COVID.
Yeah.
And he has not made his final trip. But he's going to be here showing the footage he has so far, explaining about the new documentary he's doing, and also filming parts of the reunion to include in that future documentary.
Oh, wow.
Kane is an Emmy Award-winning documentarian. His first documentary will be shown again on Saturday, and it was premiered at the World War II Museum 6 years ago when we were there for a reunion.
Yeah.
Saturday is a big day. Saturday morning, we will start at the parade field with ceremonies. The 41st Army Band will be here, providing musical support for the day. We will reenact the inactivation ceremony that was held on 31 August 1945 in Germany. We're going to reenact that ceremony and case our association's ceremonial colors, because the actual division colors were cased on the 31st of August 1945, and they remain cased in the U.S. Army Archives, never to be uncased.
Okay.
But we're going to case the ceremonial colors. We have Colonel James Palmer, who's the son of a 65th veteran, who will be speaking that day. Colonel Weaver will be joining us, base commander here. Following that, second half of the morning ceremonies, 2 of our veterans that are in attendance will be receiving the French Legion of Honor, which is the highest award the Republic of France gives to anyone, military or civilian. That will be the second part of the ceremony. The French Consul General for France for the Southeast United States will be traveling here to make that presentation. He's traveling from Atlanta.
Wow.
He'll be here Saturday morning to make that presentation.
Wow. And so there are 6. Did I hear you right? 6.
6 veterans.
Okay.
The youngest being 95. The oldest is 101.
That's incredible.
Traveling from Dallas, Texas.
That's
Arlington,
so cool.
Texas.
How many were originally in the division?
That's interesting. I think Jim can detail that a little bit
Okay.
more, but a division is typically about 13,000 at that given time. I think Jim could share with you some information about
Sure.
the issue of reinforcements that occurred here during 44, which is kind of an interesting part of that story.
So and are they? Is it fair to say, Charlie, that they're here because of the connection to Camp Shelby?
Absolutely.
In preparation to go be shipped off.
Camp Shelby is the home of the 65th.
Okay.
They were nowhere else in the United States. They shipped out from the railhead right here to Camp Shanks, New York, boarded the troop ships in the harbor in New York City, headed to France rather than England, which Jim, I think, will touch on in a few minutes. But this is the only place they ever were. Some of the artillery was training at Fort Sills, but this is where they were activated on the 16th of August, 1943. They shipped out starting the day after Christmas of 1944, and shipped out and went essentially straight into the line almost.
Yeah.
Let me add one other thing. On Saturday afternoon, we're going to have a memorial service in the chapel next door, which is a World War II era chapel, the only one left here. And we're going to have a memorial service with a last roll call. And then we're going to have a wreath-laying ceremony at our our 65th monument right outside here, which was the first monument to a division or to a unit that was erected here and dedicated, and that was in 1984.
Yeah.
And as you know, there are several of them now, but
Sure.
we claim to be the first because we were.
Yeah. Awesome. When these gentlemen get together, and though they're up there in age, and God bless them and for their service as well, what do they talk about?
Well, that's interesting. Oftentimes it's easier to draw information from them now than it once was.
Yeah.
And that's happened over the last 20 plus years. And I think part of that occurred in the late 90s. Tom Brokaw wrote a great book called The Greatest Generation.
Sure.
And I think that tipped the interest on their part to say, yeah, maybe I can share my story. And they've begun to do that. And I think our guys are doing that, are more comfortable with doing that. Hopefully, Friday afternoon we're going to have the 6 of them with Jim's help and another fellow and Sean here at the museum. We're going to have a panel discussion and hope we can get them to talk about their experiences.
And I assume they will see the exhibit here in the museum as well, right?
Oh, yeah, they will. And that'll be the first time that, except for myself, that our folks will have seen this, quote, the new museum. Because we were here 6 years ago.
Yeah.
We had a kind of driving tour. The museum was closed for renovation to, in my opinion, although not the largest, but it's comparable to any other military museum that you'll find in the country and the world. It's comparable to.
We agree. Do you expect that to stoke some emotions?
Absolutely.
How can it not?
Yeah, it will. Since you mentioned that, my mom and dad met here. They got married here.
I saw the picture. It's awesome.
I wouldn't be here. My brother, Jimmy, who lives here in Hattiesburg, wouldn't be here. This is part of our history.
Sure. Well, I won't be present, but I can't wait for them to see it, and I can't wait to hear their reaction. It's so important that we honor them. It's so important that we preserve what's in their heads because they lived it, and it's such an important historical account for us all to take note of and never forget.
May I But I don't want to leave without
Sure.
saying two
Yes,
things.
sir.
The people here have been unbelievable supportive for us for 3 years now, because this has been postponed twice because of the pandemic. The people of Hattiesburg have been unbelievable supportive and excited to host us. The people, it's been unbelievable. And I want to extend a welcome and invitation to everyone in Hattiesburg to join us Saturday morning.
Absolutely.
Right outside the museum at the parade field, starting at 9:30.
It's out of respect, and it's their honor. We appreciate you joining us. We'll be right back on midday. Coming at you live from the Armed Forces Museum down at Camp Shelby. Joining us now, we've got Jim Hanson. He's the 65th Division Association historian. Good morning there, Mr. Hanson. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been really fascinating seeing the 65th exhibit here at the Armed Forces Museum. And you were just sharing with me offline, you're not really a professional historian. You just took this upon yourself, and you have, I guess, uncovered and tracked and documented lots of information about the 65th. Give us a little background.
Well, the history for the 65th Division, it's rather unique from the standpoint that their division, its history was a short-lived one, but it was a very distinguished history. They were activated at Camp Shelby from what we understand, it'd be the same parade ground or parade field that the division was activated in August 16th of 1943. Mm-hmm. And General Stanley Reinhardt, it became known as the Battle Axe Division because of the halberd insignia on their shoulder patch. They trained continuously at Camp Shelby, and however, one of the unique things about the division is they were torn to pieces several times.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, the Battle of the Bulge and some of the other developments of the Ardennes offensive, they sprang that on us, and it was a big surprise. And we lost a lot of men over in the European theater. Mm-hmm. So they ended up pulling like upwards of 1,200 officers and up to as many as I've heard 12,000 enlisted men out of the 65th Division before they even went over to Europe to plug the holes in the lines over there. And as a result, they had to pull in thousands of men that had never trained with the 65th. So they were really up against it. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, my dad was he was training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma in artillery, and he got sent here to the 65th Division, put into the 867th Field Artillery Battalion, and he learned the ropes here at Camp Shelby, mm-hmm. And when the soldiers left Camp Shelby, they headed to Camp Shanks, New York, and there they boarded troop transports for the overseas trip. Mm-hmm. And the division, once they got over there, they had to set up their own camp. It was Camp Lucky Strike where they landed. They were the first division, as far as we know, that landed directly in France. And the division, they had to set up their own facilities there because the engineer battalion that was there to assemble the camp got pulled away and put into to supplement because of the problems that they had there with the when they had very meager supplies. Mm-hmm. They struggled with that, and the cold. A lot of the men, they lost a lot of the men due to frostbite and the elements that they succumbed to there. my dad, he came close to having frostbitten feet.
Sure.
And they lost, 1,250 men to non-battle casualties, and just about an equal number in battle casualties. But once they got there, they moved rapidly across Europe. They were known as Patton's Spearhead Division, because a lot of the units were put in with armored divisions to spearhead the move through Germany. And after the different battles that they had gone through, they were inactivated in Wasserburg, Germany. And that was August 31st, 1945. So it was only a couple of years that they were in active service. And when they entered the fray quite late in the game, they only had 55 days of combat. But during that 55 days, they had established, a pretty renowned record. General Reinhardt, they liberated Hersbruck concentration camp, so they do have their colors displayed at the National Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. They also provided humanitarian services to Kirchheim, Hyde, and the Mauthausen concentration camps, and several displaced persons camps over in Austria and Germany. They also had one Medal of Honor winner, Medic PFC Frederick C. Murphy of Weymouth, Massachusetts. He received posthumously the Medal of Honor for his actions on March 18, 1945 on the Siegfried Line at Saarlautern, Germany. And then General Reinhardt made some statements. One of them was, he said, disregarding our drawbacks at the outset, he said, we went into action and outshone most, if not all, of the old reliables. He said, how did we do that? I have the answer. We did it by the superb quality of our men and the way they answered every call upon them. He said, yes, you have a right to be proud. And in World War II, they were the last division activated on August 16th, or the first division at Camp Shelby, and the last division inactivated on August 31st, 1945. They were the first division to disembark in France at Le Havre, January 21st, 1945. They were the spearhead division for General Patton's Third Army in Germany. They traveled further and faster than any other division in the European theater of operations, 583 miles in 55 days. Wow. They were the closest American troops to Berlin on Easter Sunday, 1945. In the march to Regensburg at Neumarkt, they formed the southern flank of the entire Third Army. They were the first Third Army unit to cross the Danube River near Regensburg, Germany. They were the first Army unit to capture an enemy naval fleet. And that was 36 German vessels and 31 Hungarian vessels that surrendered in Linz, Austria on the Danube River. They penetrated the furthest east of any American division in Europe. They met the Russians at Erlof, Austria, 45 miles east of Linz and 55 miles west of Vienna.
So we're kind of getting short on time, but I want to know about the right to be proud. I mean, that became the motto for the division, right?
Yes, it did.
What's the history? What's the underlying meaning?
Well, they had some pretty tough going. All the troops that got replaced at the last minute, because a lot of those troops came in just weeks before the division was shipped overseas.
Yeah.
So they had never trained together in any great amount. They had never really done any divisional maneuvers or any other types of maneuvers as units. And they said that when they arrived at the port of embarkation in New York, a lot of the men couldn't even recognize their commanders by sight. They went into the fray relatively untrained, but like General Reinhardt said, they had a right to be proud and their record showed that.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the list of medals and the distinctions. It's incredible.
It is.
Is that unusually high for one division like that? It seems like.
And for such a short period of time, yeah. 691 medals, the Bronze Stars, and, it's just absolutely incredible.
And that short period of service, the commissioning, decommissioning, activate, deactivate, I guess, that's what kind of makes it unique, this particular division. Is that correct?
It does. It does. They had a very, very short history.
That's just amazing. And then coming together for a reunion, I guess 6 survivors, right? Is it 6 survivors or the 6 that are scheduled?
There are the 6 of them that we are going to attend.
Okay.
But we have probably over 50 that we know of.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and most of them are in their 90s. If not, well, they're all in their 90s.
Yeah, sure. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing this history, Mr. Hanson. It's fascinating, and God bless you, sir, for compiling this, and God bless those who've served in the 65th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll take a break right here on Middays. We'll come right back.